Welcome to Absolute Comics, the podcast that has now been running for an amazing 30 years. Did you know today is our 30-year anniversary, Sal from Comic Pop, where you do great discussions on old stories?
Yes. And did you know it was our 30-year anniversary? Benny the Comic Storian, who makes complete stories of your favorite comic book arcs.
I loved how awkward that intro was because I didn't tell you what I was doing and thought of it on the fly.
That was evident, yes. But I was trying to think of something where I'm like, yes, we've been at this for 30 years. I am 52 years old. Like,
oh, man. So we've been doing this for 30 years, and I did the Army first. That would make me... I am now 69.
Nice.
Oh, wait. Awesome.
I apply for Social Security. Boom. I win.
Today's episode is brought to you by G Fuel, where that bad joke came from. Use the code COMICS at checkout to get your order of G Fuel 10% off and make all the bad energized jokes you can.
Don't blame our sponsor. They do good work.
Sounds like, hold on. I get the joke, but let's just correct this real quick. All right, guys. Yep, today is this is the show where Sal and I go over what we've read this week. Sal, what'd you read?
Oh, this week?
Yeah, this week.
Nothing.
Because nothing came out.
Nothing came out. I went to Comixology before we started shooting, and I looked it up, and I'm like, I'm not buying the Green Arrow 80th anniversary full price, so I guess I'm not reading anything today.
But you did say you read Infinite Frontier, and you thought it was this week.
I did, and it actually came out like 2 weeks ago.
And it came out last week, and it's convenient because I also read Infinite Frontier today because I didn't read it last week.
There you go.
We'll talk about that in 1 second, and then we're going to talk about our topics. Despite being in development limbo, the Nightwing movie still coming out. The X-Men Onslaught Revelation is coming out. Scarlett Johansson is officially leaving the Black Widow role. Don't believe that. The new Shang-Chi trailer is releasing, showing Abomination, and the internet freaked out. Boba Fett actor Mark Austin has gone off social media to complain very loudly about Lego renaming Boba Fett's ship in the upcoming... Okay, we'll go to that in a minute. Mm-hmm. And Harley Quinn artist reveals that Harley and Ivy's first continuity kiss was edited. Ooh, I'll read that in a minute. And then Coca-Cola revealed its branding as a new sponsor of Free Comic Book Day 2021, plastering their name and logo on all posters and promotional material. But let's talk about Infinite Frontier first, and then we'll go down that list.
Sure. Yeah. So Josh Williamson is the new kind of like golden boy at DC Comics. Scott Snyder kind of dictated what was happening at DC for as long as he's been working there, with the result being 2 Dark Knights metal stories. And now it's Josh Williamson's turn. And surprisingly enough, a Flash is at the core of it, but there is more. And I'm loving it. I got to tell you, like when they announced Infinite Frontier and they were like, this is the new initiative after Death Metal, everyone was kind of like, what is it? What does it mean? Like,
yeah.
What are we doing? And there were some preludes to Infinite Frontier, but this is finally the like meat and potatoes. This is the series that's going to really launch what Infinite Frontier is and set up the new status quo and also potentially the next crisis. And I got to tell you, I like it. I like it a lot. There's a mystery abound. There's fun characters in here. The inherent hook hooked me. So I'm down. I love it. Also, the art's terrific. Benny, what do you think?
I'm a huge fan of it because every time that DC does one of these events, we have like DC Rebirth and then no through line. Like It becomes a game of like, where is the information for the main plot that DC's going through right now? Is it in Batman? Probably. Is it a Superman? Probably. But where else is it? Did Flash do something? Is Green Arrow doing something? So I like the idea that we've gotten a few months of Infinite Frontier and we have a few through lines, and then they're like, and here's the core issue. Yes. Here's the multiversal old dark side plot.
Yeah.
I like that idea a lot because it allows you to know what's going on as opposed to trying to guess which issues. Because the problem with the DC, especially with Rebirth and now even with this, some of it is doing the through line. Some of it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Like Flash with Wally West. Barry Allen in Infinite Frontier is going through the multiverse. In Flash, he's helping Wally West, which is the key issue. Well, now we know. The key issue is Infinite Frontier. The other thing is just Barry and Wally doing Flash stuff.
Yeah. If you want Flash stuff, it's unconnected to the Infinite Frontier story, but Flash is fast and he's everywhere, so he'll have an opportunity to lend a hand. And it's Josh Williamson at the helm, so there's no way he's not going to be involved. And that's fair. Because we already set up like what Barry's status quo was going to be at the end of Death Metal and the beginning of Infinite Frontier, which is Barry's going to be part of this new initiative, this new secret Illuminati of DC characters, and he's going to go through the multiverse and he's going to do his thing. He's going to collect multiversal energy. Okay, I'm down.
I mean, I don't know. I really am just enjoying having like for a guy who loves lore and continuity and how things do tie together. That is why I think comic books are failing compared to manga. One of the core reasons, but also one of the reasons I like comics versus manga. It's so much bigger. Yes. Manga is easier to get into. If you want to read My Hero Academia, you can just read volumes 1 through 10. And while that's not the core reason why they're they're surpassing comic books these days, it is one of the reasons. Barrier for entry is much lower for manga. Yeah. But what makes comic books fun is 10 issues came out this week. What's tied together? How does it work together? What is going on? All of that.
Yeah.
So, I really enjoy the idea that there is a through line. So you can. It's almost like they're trying to do the manga route of low barrier to entry at the same time as going comic book craziness all over the place. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, it definitely lampshades the whole situation with respect to death metal, what's going on, the multiverse, which of course is a big Hollywood buzzword right now. Everyone at Hollywood and everyone at comic books is kind of like multiverse. That's the big new hotness right now, and that is kind of like the big through line of Infinite Frontier is multiverses. People now in the like main universe of DC are aware of the multiverse, despite the fact that we've been talking about them for ever. But they're aware that they are a cog in the multiverse. They know that there's a seemingly infinite number of them. What does that mean for me? And the existential dread that is associated with thereof. That's cool too. But also the mystery, as it has been portrayed through two seemingly innocuous characters that you don't normally get a spotlight shined on. It very much reminds me of 52. Of Identity Crisis, of the Infinite Crisis intro. So all those things combined, I'm down. Like I love the idea of, especially because I think Williamson said something like it's going to be like kind of like 3x structure. So Infinite Frontier is this thing, and this thing is going to be the mystery, and then the next thing is the next thing, and then the next thing's the next thing. So like enjoy this because this is the mystery part of the big overarching event of this crisis. And that's kind of exciting too. So.
Well, let me ask you this then, since we're touching on the mystery. How do you feel about the return of old school Darkseid and him not wanting to just be the baddie again?
I think that's great because Darkseid has been done dirty since New 52. Like, I don't think Darkseid has been interesting in a long time. I think that people who love Darkseid, they love the Superman cartoon and the Justice League cartoon. They like Michael Ironside's Darkseid, who is a bad guy. He's basically DC's the devil, but in space, and he is a despot, and he is power hungry, and he's basically Doctor Doom. I mean, in terms of attitude and echelon status, like he's a king more or less, or an emperor, or a god, and he loves it that way. That kind of version of Darkseid, I haven't really seen a good representation of like the distilled animated Darkseid that more people probably recognize than comic book Darkseid in a long time. And I feel like that's the one to emulate. But instead, when New 52 launched, here's the Justice League. What's their first adventure? They fight Darkseid. Oh, just the biggest, strongest, hardest baddie in the world. And he doesn't really talk. He's not very articulate. He's not really interesting. He has no character motivations. It's pretty lame. And I've been waiting for them to kind of like restore Darkseid, and they've done it kind of like half-assed. Like they had Darkseid War, meh, when it comes to Darkseid characterization, and then it just keeps.
They turned him into a Darkseid baby.
Yeah, the Darkseid baby. At the very least, the Darkseid baby was a funny visual. It's something that I imagine Grant Morrison
carrying
loved.
him in a baby carrier.
I think there's actually a statue immortalizing that moment. I mean, it is a fun visual. The idea of Darkseid having been sent back and become a baby, and you can use him to shoot yourself with Omega Sanction, so you can go back in time. Like, I don't know. I think that's a cute idea, and it's so funny. It's such like that's one of those ideas that like Scott Snyder was like, woohoo, comics, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's pretty funny. Especially because it's comics, everything will eventually come full circle, and Darkseid will be restored. And now he is, and it's. I haven't really seen much from Darkseid because Darkseid like flew a jet in the Sixth Dimension. Like he was a part of the Justice League in Odyssey. Yeah, we haven't seen scary threat Darkseid in a long time. And it was a great idea to kill off a bunch of characters nobody cares about.
Yeah.
By using him, you know?
Well, how did you feel like Grail?
Boo.
I was just thinking, because Darkseid Baby was restored to full Darkseid by Grail in a side plot after Batman used him.
Right, completely, like how many people actually read that issue? You know what I mean? I'm not a huge Grail fan, but I didn't like much from Darkseid War. You know, like the art's great. It put Fabok on the map. People are like, yes, this guy. And then, of course, he was monopolized for like 12 years to draw friggin' 3 Jokers, which is like nobody liked. But, you know, outside of that.
3 Jokers, that's a segue.
I know, 3 Jokers. Oops.
Okay. Let's look at that like real quick. Okay, hold on.
Yeah,
we
can do a post-mortem.
Like there was a I want to do a post-mortem on that because today's topics we're going to be blitzing through anyway. So might as well do a post-mortem on 3 Jokers and Doomsday Clock.
Yes. Yes.
Both were Fabok's last 2 big, like, these are going to be huge.
Don't forget, Gary Frank drew Doomsday Clock.
Right. But Jeff Johns, like, big last, these are the moments.
Yeah, this is what I've been building towards since I started working here.
Doomsday Clock went nowhere with no idea, no purpose, it didn't even bring the Watchmen into DC. At least
some of them went there.
They're not there.
They're not there now.
But that's
not
my
true.
point.
Marionette and Mime are here.
Yay! Where's Rorschach?
He's dead.
No, I know, but like that's my point. Like,
right? Like, you got to see new fake Rorschach fight Batman, kind of. You got to see the comedian shoot Lex Luthor. You know, you got to see Superman's ideology against John. Yeah, no, nothing came out of it. But I mean, here's the thing: there was gonna be. Like, if Johns had been allowed to continue his thing and they weren't, you know, if DC wasn't in such utter tumult at the time and they didn't, you know, get cold feet about the status quo and they didn't want to appease other creators, because, I mean, Heroes in Crisis really screwed up Doomsday Clock, as did a lot of things at DC at the time. Bendis also really screwed up Doomsday Clock by prematurely introducing the Legion of Superheroes and the JSA from Scott Snyder. So it was like a lot of things undercut the impact of Doomsday Clock.
Well, it didn't help that it got super delayed.
Well, that's the thing, is that, like, if you're going to announce that a 12-issue miniseries that is going to springboard the new status quo of the DC Universe, it better come out on time. Especially if you announce it, like, 2 years before it launches.
Yeah.
Like, that
and then it takes
done.
2 years to come out.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just say that Doomsday Clock had a lot of things working against it. Despite it being ultimately, I think, a pretty satisfying comic. I think the art's
if you were to tell me
writing.
Doomsday Clock had no intentions other than being its own separate storyline, I would agree. As a separate book, other than getting a little long-winded at times to try and make it feel like Alan Moore.
Yeah.
You know, to be like, cool. I liked it. I thought it was good. It was just so, oh my God. Just now you got me thinking about all of this, like the everything that was supposed to come out of Rebirth. Doomsday Clock, 3 Jokers, Mr. Oz.
Mr. Oz, what a wasted opportunity there.
Mr. Oz is a big deal. Dr. Manhattan supposedly coming to the DC universe.
Stealing time.
Happen.
Why? What about Wally? What about the Speed Force? What about the pre-New 52 era? Like, what about all those things? And I mean, Doomsday Clock answered those questions, but ultimately, because it was undercut by other things going on that were arguably less heavy and weighty and hyped, no one was really paying attention and nobody really cared overall, and so the impact was lessened. You know, like, we got to find out, like, what about the missing time? What about the New 52? What about the multiverse? Watchmen, Dr. Manhattan, Superman, you know.
I don't think any of the reveals were worth all of the hype and everything we had for it, though. That was the problem.
Absolutely.
Do you think the whole thing was overhyped, or do you think they underdelivered?
They underdelivered. I mean, like, well, here's the thing. They didn't stick to their guns. I think the hype associated with Doomsday Clock when it was leading up to it, go back and just glance at any of the podcasts or videos that we made or anybody else in our in our bullpen made during that time. The hype was real. The implications were varied and many, and it was supposed to be a big deal. And I think if Doomsday Clock had come out if they had announced it, because they announced it at like New York Comic Con in October, right? Whatever year. If Doomsday Clock had launched that month, they had been like, we're doing Doomsday Clock, mic drop. Next week, issue 1 drops, and it will run 12 months. And that at next New York Comic Con, you're going to see the future of the DC universe. That would have been pretty amazing.
But none of it happened.
But none of that happened.
That's the problem.
Yeah. Oh, it's a big problem. But Watchmen was delayed when it was coming out. Dark Knight Returns was delayed when it was coming out. Nobody cared. Nobody read that when it was coming out. But
they weren't supposed to be the game changers that they were.
Well, they became the game changers, or I don't think when they were making them, they thought they were going to be game changers. But no one remembers that they were delayed. People just remember the impact they had. And with Doomsday Clock, eventually, people are not going to remember the hype associated with Doomsday Clock. And all that's going to be left is this trade of this stuff referring to things that barely anybody remembers anymore. And it's not going to be satisfying. I don't think the Doomsday Clock
for the record, Jeff Johns' balls to hype up, and in 2 years 5G, and then in 3 years they're gonna fight Marvel, and then
yeah. Oh, I think he did that on purpose just to show you the kind of cyclical nature of comic books, and it doesn't really matter. None of these people really plan, especially DC. The joke of that last page or early or towards the end reveal of all of the timeline of the DC universe was that there's any plan whatsoever. Part of the reason why I like Infinite Frontier is because Williamson has a plan, and that no one at the upper levels at DC are paying attention or steering the bus, and so Williamson is probably going to get away with doing a lot of things, and as long as the books come out on time and they don't alienate their readers, as long as those two things happen, Infinite Frontier will have very few significant editorial changes and will have the impact that Williamson wants it to have. And that's great, and more than you could say for Doomsday Clock.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the events that kind of came out lacklusterly, how about Darkseid War hyping up 3 Jokers?
Right.
And then it coming out almost 5 years later and it not having any weight or impact or anything.
I think that has everything to do with just the story. I think the story is just not worth it. At the end of the day, 3 Jokers, not the title, the concept, is just not interesting enough. It doesn't... People were intrigued because no one had ever thought that, no one had ever introduced that idea, and it was done through the Mobius chair, so there's weight attached to it, and it was, hyped up as this thing that was going to change everything and come out of this other big thing. And so then it did come out, and at the end of the day, it's just kind of like a lousy sequel to Killing Joke, and it's not really that impactful. I think that most people... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that 3 Jokers would have been better if it came out close to the actual reveal that there are 3 Jokers?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you think that the 5-year wait is what killed it?
I think that it was a combination. I think the 5-year wait definitely hurt the book 80%. But the other 20% is that the book just isn't great. The art is, again, phenomenal. It's one of those things where it's John's pulled unbelievable art. Gary Frank drew the crap out of Doomsday Clock. It is one of the best looking books of its time, front and back, 3-year window. And 3 Jokers is an unbelievably good looking book, and everyone is doing a great job, from the colors right on down to the pencils. But everyone who says anything complimentary about 3 Jokers says that the Batman story, the story about Bruce Wayne and the ending, are the best ideas, and the Joker stuff is really not nearly as substantive as they expected, and it didn't really hit them the way it could have. And maybe it's because it had too few issues and it wasn't able to really breathe. Maybe it was just because at the end of the day, it just wasn't a very interesting idea.
I think it would have been okay though if Darkseid War had ended and we jumped right into this 3 Joker idea.
Totally.
But I think part of the problem is it being removed from continuity, basically.
Yeah.
Because people forget, Darkseid War was the end of that continuity.
Well, it was the end of
there's
the
3 Jokers. The world restarted. What?
Now, see, that's the thing, is if they had... The problem with 3 Jokers is it couldn't have come out right after Darkseid War because no one established what the what the continuity was. Like, it was still technically in the New 52, and I think that Three Jokers would not have been as impactful if it was like, this is New 52 Batman, and it has implications of multiversal stuff, or at the very least, like, continuity stuff, but it's not really Batman. It's New 52 Batman. And that was a big problem.
Huh.
But in the post-Darkseid, or in the post-Doomsday Clock, where it's like, it's its own thing, / it's the Batman you know and remember, it should have more impact and weight. But it's just kind of like a thing. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, when you read Three Jokers, like 10 years from now, the story isn't enough. The story isn't enough to get you to care or find it in any way weighty, you know?
I mean, but that was part of the problem with Three Jokers, though, was that it was revealed in one continuity.
Yep.
And then it was told, well, now it's out of continuity. So in continuity, Batman says there are 3 Jokers.
Yes.
And then out of continuity, we're going to find out how that plays out. Like,
well, and I don't even know. I think that was just them playing fast and loose with their terms. Like, I don't think that they even knew that it was going to be in or out of continuity. I think they were like, no. Three Jokers is definitely in continuity. We just need it to be unrated. And so we'll use the black label as a method of putting it out without having to worry about a rating system, even though black label also synonymously connected to Elseworlds and non-continuity. So it was like, it was a weird decision, and it wasn't well planned out, and they didn't have enough like explanation, because you can't just say, oh, there's 3 Jokers. There's always been 3 Jokers, and they represent this time, and this time. And oh, by the way, those things that they did in those books, they all happened now, too. Like, in continuity. You can't say that, and you can't have that kind of story come out and also pretend like continuity doesn't matter and your audience isn't going to ask. You can't have your cake and eat it too when it comes to that kind of a mic drop of a book. You can't.
I'll end this discussion with this. Do you think that there was an original idea for Doomsday Clock and 3 Jokers before the DCEU got so messed up that Jeff Johns was pulled off of DC and all of the lineup changes? When it was Dan DiDio, Jeff Johns, and Jim Lee deciding what was going on, do you think that there was a plan that would have made us
totally
go, yes?
Oh yeah, we saw it. I think that the end of Doomsday Clock really sets up what the ending was going to be, and Doomsday Clock was going to be the full official ending of the New 52, the rolling back of the New 52, and a reestablishment of continuity. Not all of continuity, but like a reset. It was going to be a new crisis that like wasn't called a crisis. That was going to set up like the new status quo of DC, and Three Jokers was going to play into that, because Three Jokers is, Jason Todd's Red Hood. He came back to life. He died. Killing Joke happened. But Batman's kind of old, which is right in the face of New 52, but also has to have taken place at least in post-crisis continuity. So it's like,
right.
Doomsday Clock was supposed to happen, and then I think Three Jokers is supposed to happen. And Three Jokers is going to be like, these are the kind of stories you're going to get now, where it's like there's weight and there's gravity attached to these stories and these characters, and all the things that happen matter and still happen. And your favorite stories, they also happened. It's a little bit more official than what we have right now, where they're like, it all happened. Wonder Woman turned gold and big and punched God. And it's like, okay.
I mean, they literally reference that stuff in Infinite Frontier.
They do.
Everyone knows that happened.
Yeah. But Snyder doesn't care about like whether it fits in continuity or what it all happened means. And you could tell because there are other people who are trying to answer those questions. Like Dan Jurgens did that continuity book where he's like, they told me that it all happened. Let me explain how. Batman remembers all those things happening, and he ages slower. And no one at DC was like, yeah, that's the plan. No, they just went, oh, screw it, just put it out. But we're not going to listen to him. We're not going to do that.
Oh, the one where it was Purple Glove Batman?
Yeah, shattered whatever the hell. I
forgot that was a thing.
Of course, because they didn't hype it, they didn't explain it, and they made it so that you could ignore it and forget about it, and they just wanted your money. Because I think that Shattered whatever the hell came out, and it was like $10 or $8. It was an expensive ask, and you got a lot of story for it, but ultimately those stories were kind of like not important and not canon.
Right.
And it's like, if you like them, then they are important to you. But if you care about continuity and you want to know what's happening in the DC universe, you don't need to read those because it doesn't matter. But like Jurgens tried to explain it, and I think other people are like also made an effort to try and explain like what this means. And Infinite Frontier is now going to be the book that's like, here's what it means, here's what happened. You know, he's trying to do a little bit of cleanup while also telling a cogent story. Which
so far I like it. I like
appreciate
having
too.
the straightforward path. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Like, thank you. Because you got to explain it. You can't just leave it to your readers because your readers aren't going to be able to put it all together. And then you got YouTubers and speculators who are all like coming out with their own theories, and some of them do research and most of them don't. And so you just have hearsay and rumor, and then like the culture at large influences the zeitgeist and changes it just by saying it happened a lot. You know, like DC really wanted you to forget that Superboy punched reality, and that's why Jason Todd came back to life. But everyone remembers that Superboy punched reality. And so they won't let DC forget. And like, I think they made it in continuity where, no, he didn't punch. It's not that anymore. Like, the reality punch happened, but then some other stuff happened, and that undid the reality punch. And so now
it's Lazarus Pit, and he trained with Talia al Ghul afterwards.
Right, like in the movie that everyone saw. But because fandom is what it is, they influence the culture, and so no matter what happens for the next 100 years, Superboy punched reality, and that's why Jason Todd didn't die. And it doesn't matter what it says on paper, but like, they don't have like an official chart that says like there's no Hickman that says like, here's a black and white Google sheet that tells you exactly what happened and why. So, you know, if you do that, don't be if you're going to play fast and loose with continuity as a publisher of an interconnected universe, don't be pissed or surprised if your audience tries to make sense of it, especially if you refuse to do it. Yeah. That's where we are. You know, Doomsday Clock and Three Jokers is a casualty of DC's cavalier attitude and weird lack of management or abundance
of micromanagement.
Like
6 years for DC.
Yeah, it's been weird.
It's been a weird 6 years.
It's a hard time. Yeah, it's a hard time for DC because you know, it was no better for people who worked there, especially since most of them got fired. Sucks.
All right, well, let's go into the news. I think today's comic book discussion was quite meaty. Informational.
Yeah, I agree.
Meaty. It was. Let's start at the top. Nightwing movie is not dead, and apparently the only thing they're trying to figure out now is who's going to be Batman.
Yeah.
Because I guess it was put into development when it was Ben Affleck. It's been in development hell since then.
Yep.
And now it's a question of like, well, is it going to be Robert Pattinson? Because we're about to revamp everything.
Yep.
Like, I don't know why DC is trying to hold on to this interconnected movie thing. You ruined it. Then you said screw it with Joker in those.
Yep.
Then you said it's back. Then you said screw it. Then you said it's back. Then you said screw it. Like,
yep.
Just let it go. Let the interconnected go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want it to be interconnected. Like, I
agree.
I want the Batman to be the new Batman of the DC cinematic universe.
But they've already said he isn't going to do it.
I know. And that just sucks. Like, that's just, I think he's going to be great. I think that movie's going to be dope. I think that also because it's Hollywood, they lie. You know, like Robert Pattinson says he only wants to make one. Sure. Because DC offered Christian Bale more money after Rises to keep being Batman in their cinematic universe. And he said no, but like, it must not have been a dump truck full of money. You know? So I feel like I feel like you never know. That's a problem. Like, look at Michael Keaton. He's Batman again. And he looks great. Like, we've seen the leaked pictures. He looks like friggin' like Batman. And I never expected that. And it's just like, he's going to be Batman in a Flash movie. I don't even know if Michael Keaton even understands what the hell that means. But he's going to, but he'll do it, you know, because of the scratch. Why wouldn't you? So yeah, I want there to be a DC cinematic universe. I want there to be like,
I just realized it's going to be 30 years since Batman 89.
Yeah. Well, no,
so
I mean,
it's like 32.
32 years. Yeah. 89, 99, 2009, 2019.
Yeah.
32 years.
It's been 32 years and someone was like, do you want to be Batman in the new Flash movie?
Right? He's like, what's the Flash? And while we're at it, you want to be Beetlejuice again?
Could you imagine a Beetlejuice revival?
Yes, I can. I mean, they did that Broadway show. I didn't see it, but like, you know, Beetlejuice ain't dead. There's still that script. Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. It's still floating around there.
Yeah, no, I'm interested though. I don't know. I honestly feel like they should just remove the Batman role and make him a mention. Mm-hmm. And that resolves it. Because
it totally does.
But if they're trying to cast Batman, you're either going to get Ben Affleck to again show up.
Oh my God.
In the costume, but still not be our Batman right now.
Nope.
It's or so you're going to get but you don't want Robert Pattinson to be.
Well, he can't be because he's only like 30 or 20 something. So there couldn't have been a Nightwing. Like, Nightwing can't be the same age as Batman.
It wasn't the New 52.
Yeah, that's why it was stupid. I actually would.
Batman was 29. Nightwing was 26. It works.
And it just worked. It's so funny how Ben Affleck kind of screwed up the DCEU when he got in, because, you know, they hired him because he was a double threat. He was an actor who could play Batman, but also he was a director who could win Academy Awards, and he was going to direct the Batman movie. And then, you know, he got too big for his britches, and he got really pissed off about how, like, no one cared about his personal projects and were only interested in him being Batman. And now, you know, he's been to rehab a bunch of times, and no one's hiring him for anything. And he came back to be in the Snyder Cut, and he looks all thin and old, and it's like he'll be Batman any time now. Like, now is the time for him to just keep being Batman. He could be in like 7 Batman movies. I don't know. I think DC's in a weird place. I don't know. I don't have a solution for them.
Next news topic is X-Men: The Onslaught Revelation is going to be coming out of the current Way of X run, which is actually one of the X-Men books I'm not reading, so I guess I should. How do you feel about the return of Onslaught? All of this is making me question Hickman's. Like, it just feels like Hickman's like, let's take all the X-Men greatest hits and just bring them back.
Why wouldn't you? Onslaught was almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's not wrong. And they're not just redoing it. We just did Heroes Reborn again.
And it was not. Like, it was just not that.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that. How did you feel about a miniseries that, okay, first off, I got a little rant about that one if we're going to talk about revivals. Onslaught, we'll end that. Yeah. I'm cool with it. I'd love to see him come back.
He looks great. That's all I want from Onslaught, is just to look cool. That's all.
So Marvel's marketing. I'm sure one of you watches or listens to this show.
Please, you guys.
What? Whose idea was it to do Heroes Reborn 1 through 7 and then end the series in a book entitled Heroes Return and separate them by search category?
Right.
Why?
There's so much wrong with their marketing for Heroes Reborn. Number 1, virtually no marketing about it being an event. Number 2, them stealing the cover aesthetic from Civil War and calling it another Marvel event. Like, we take the visual aesthetic from one Marvel event and the title from another Marvel event and create a new Marvel event with them both.
Yeah.
And when you get the event, when you read Heroes Reborn, 7 issues. Each issue is just a snapshot solo book highlighting a character you don't care about who is not doing anything related to the event in that story, and then a 2-page backup. What?
They weren't setting up a new universe like an Ultimate Universe or something. They were setting up a quick little 2-month fun event.
Yeah.
And then you're right, 2-page backup was the story.
And
all the story was is Blade being like, gotta find the Avengers.
And they don't. Yes. And it's like, we saw that too. You stole the visual aesthetic of Civil War and the names from Heroes Reborn and the plot device of House of M to make this thing that is basically a send-up of DC?
Yeah.
For what purpose?
And then to not even just make it number 8. Why not just Heroes Return, number 8, or put it in the same category or whatever? Why is the ending a separate book?
Series. It's a separate book. I don't know. I mean, I get it because they do technically return, but it's a terrible execution of that plan. Like, you get a checklist, but the checklist is at the back of the book you expect them all to read.
Yes.
They have to have already bought it. It's like expecting producers to greenlight your TV show while you're pitching it to them. Like, they don't understand what the show is. You have to tell them why people want to watch it. You have to explain to your readers why they should buy the book and why they should buy anything associated with it. And then, I don't know if you read any of those tie-ins.
I've read them all. We covered them all.
They're so contradictory to each other. There was that Spider-Man book that was written by Mark Bernardin that was like explaining the Jimmy Olsen aspect of Peter Parker, but then you read Heroes Reborn and he has a completely different attitude. It's like the same scenes, but with completely different motivations.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what is this? Like, there's no, I don't know. It felt very slipshod, and like no one asked for it in a really weird time. It was a total dud.
Like, we go from King in Black, the all-encompassing, changing the Marvel focal point, which already had its own issues, but there was a King in Black 1 through 6.
Right.
And it resolved it.
And it had tie-ins, and those tie-ins were classic event tie-ins that I could skip or not. Whatever.
And then we go to Heroes Reborn, and it just felt all over the place. It didn't feel connected. I'm sitting here reading issue 7, and it starts off with the symbiote on Nighthawk, and I'm like, this is cool, but what the hell's going on with the story?
Yeah.
You got Coulson and Mephisto in a 2-page backup in 6, and now we're talking about symbiotes.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and Aaron clearly is like, well, if you didn't read the last 4 issues of my Avengers run that led up to this, that's on you. And I'm like, there's no. I hate Hickman. I hate Aaron's Avengers anyway, but this did not help. Like, I'm
not against his Avengers. I liked the Phoenix.
I know a lot of people like it. I don't.
It's not. I think it's a cool idea to reinvent everything, but his Avengers, as proven by King in Black, is not connected to jack shit.
Oh no!
He's bending it up with his own continuity.
Yeah.
And like the Phoenix is over here. The Phoenix is also in X-Men. Hickman's off doing his own thing. But at least when the X-Men show up in other Marvel books, or when Hickman references them, it feels like they're in the Marvel universe. While the Avengers, Jason Aaron's Avengers, doesn't feel like it's in the Marvel universe.
No, they're doing crazy, big, huge things that have no ramifications on the universe.
If you're not reading, Moon Knight became the Phoenix.
Yeah. Echo is now Phoenix.
Yeah.
Echo. What? And by the way, like, I don't have a dog in that race. Like, I don't care one way or the other if Echo's Phoenix, but like, I feel like that would be a big deal. But it's not at all.
It's not. Moon Knight getting the power and conquering the world and altering it and then giving up Khonshu is a footnote in Marvel history.
Yeah.
And if you're reading Avengers, it's like, wow, we almost lost the entire planet to Khonshu. Like, what?
Well, not only that, but like Hickman, like, you're reading, let's say you're one of like the people reading any X-Men title and you're like, oh, okay. Like, let's say you read Sword, which has huge ramifications for the Marvel universe, has Doctor Doom and Captain America in it, representations of the universe you're reading, and probably your characters you care about in some way.
Yeah.
And no references. Meanwhile, at the exact same time, the whole world was rewritten by Coulson and a pentacube.
Yeah, it was a pentacube. That's what they called it.
And it's like,
what? I don't know what they're doing. It literally feels like Marvel was like, all right, Hickman wants to do his X-Men thing. Just make sure it links into the main universe. Jason Aaron, we don't want to lose you. Do whatever you want with the Avengers. Like, what?
Yeah. Right. Like, we don't want to lose you. Please don't write like Justice League. Just go, just do anything with Avengers. Anything you want. Like, and I don't get it because Aaron's pretty good. Like, I like Aaron on a lot of things. I loved that Astonishing Spider-Man Wolverine book, which totally fits in with this Avengers run. But maybe because it's like it was a mini series, maybe because it was drawn by a Kubert, I don't know. But like, it's just, this is just, it's exhausting, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it makes sense if you're only reading Aaron's stuff, but if you're like a Marvel
Well, and that's what I say. I love the Avengers book if you only read Aaron's things.
Yeah.
Like he is making like, Starbrand is the biggest thing ever. This is the most incredible thing. And they just had Phoenix show up and they're remaking the original Avengers. And I'm like, this is all epic. Why is no one referencing this? No one in the world cares about this.
Right. And it's not like Aaron is a jerk that no one wants to work with, or he's telling stories that really require secrecy. No, he could easily let people in on this plan if it were a plan, but like no one's playing ball with this book. And on my hand, I'm glad of it because I don't read Avengers because I think it's awful, but at least make it matter. And I guess it matters to the people who are reading it, but I don't know. It feels really weird. It's really weird. It's a weird book. It's a weird book. It was a terrible event.
And Heroes Reborn is cool if it was just like, hey, here's a bunch of what ifs.
Yeah.
If it was promoted as being like, what if the Justice League existed? And that's going to be the story of Heroes Reborn. We're just going to tell you all the what if stories of what if we merged the two. Like, you want amalgam, we'll make our own amalgam, and here's the books. But they promoted it as this big event with these big fights, with this big bombastic, like crazy, like, Squadron Supreme versus Avengers. And yeah, it happened. But it was also the equivalent of like one comic book worth of content.
Yeah, it's one issue of content. If you read, Heroes Reborn numbers 1 through 7, and only read the last 3 pages, you'll get like maybe half an issue of story. Yeah. And ultimately, that story doesn't really matter. Like, what do they do? Nothing.
They literally reformed the Avengers and then fought the Squadron. That was the.
Yeah.
The Avengers have no idea. They're aware Coulson was involved, but no idea why, how, what Mephisto's plan was, what was the overall goal here, what was happening. No one has any idea. It's left on a cliffhanger of if the Squadron Supreme had anything to do with it or if they were just being manipulated by Coulson. Like, we get no answers other than Nighthawk remembers.
Right. I mean, like, yeah. Well, and I know those characters, like, the Squadron Supreme was already in the Marvel Universe. So, it's not even like, I don't know.
It's weird. It's really weird. I mean, I'm reading Heroes Reborn and then I'm reading Phoenix War by Jason Aaron. And I'm like, he's got Hyperion showing up. And I'm like, Hyperion just became a bad guy. Maybe? I don't even know. Because maybe he was good. Like,
that's the thing is Hyperion's been so many different things over the last few years that it's like, well, what even is this? Like, which versions of these characters are they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was a weird decision, but let's get back to our news, I guess, because, I mean, all we're going to do is bitch and moan even further.
Right. Scarlett Johansson is apparently saying goodbye to the Black Widow role. She says that this is, like, her big,
I don't believe that.
No. I mean...
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah.
They're going to have a big reunion movie in 10 years where all the people that quit are back.
That'd be fine. I'd be okay with that. Hell, I'd take it in 2 years. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, the thing that bugs me about it is, like, it's very presumptuous where they're like, okay, so Yelena Belova's going to be the new Black Widow. We're going to, like, kind of pass the baton. I'm like, cool. Is she good?
Yeah, I thought that too. I'm looking at that like, why?
Right, because here's the thing. Like, when Black Widow was introduced in Iron Man 2... we all knew who Scarlett Johansson was more or less at that point, and we knew she was fun and cool. But if she was a terrible actor, she would have just been Black Widow in Iron Man 2, and then you would have moved on, and no one would have thought anything of it.
Right.
But to say like this Black Widow movie is going to be the new like setup for the new Black Widow, it's like, okay, well, I hope she's good, because if she isn't, we're kind of stuck with this new actor who's playing a new character who has no connectivity to any of the other movies or characters.
Well, I mean, isn't that kind of what they're doing with all the shows too? They're just throwing everything at the wall right now, and I got a feeling
that's really what it is. Yeah,
it's all going to be thrown at the wall, and in 2 years, whatever works out is going to pan out. Because I think what Marvel has proven is they could tell us right now the Inhumans are going to be a movie and a TV series, and then when it doesn't pan out, go, forget that ever happened. We're the goddamn Disney Corporation.
Exactly. Yeah, big time. We're just gonna. You'll see if we acknowledge it by just sliding it into the Legends category.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like Captain Marvel. Like, oh, we're going to do 1, 2, and 3. Oh, there was a little bit of a backlash. What if it's the Marvels?
Yeah. How about this? Captain Marvel 2 is Captain Marvel 2, 3, and 4 in one movie.
Like Disney's got us all by the balls, man. There's no way to face it. And if they want Yelena Belova to be the new Black Widow and then she doesn't pan out, they'll just shuffle her. They'll be like, oh, but you liked Red Guardian, right? We'll bring him back.
Yes. I mean, the reality, yeah, you're not wrong. Like, it's a Black Widow movie. It's a solo movie. You know, if she wants to stop doing a Russian accent, move to America and become an Avenger, yeah, that's her prerogative. But if she sucks or she has like some kind of weird controversy, or if they just decide to go in another direction, or her spy stuff just really got too complicated and she never really got there.
Yeah. I have a question. How is everyone seeing this? Because I get some of the people that are like, oh, I got the screeners or I got to go to an early access.
Yeah, what the hell?
show.
Everybody else gets these screeners.
But not just that. I'm seeing like real nobodies getting access to this
Me
movie.
too.
And I'm like, where? Like, okay, look, Ja said he saw it. I get that. New Rockstar says they got to see it. I get that. You know, girl with 10 followers on Twitter is like, I met Black Widow, and I'm like, how?
Yeah,
what did I
met
miss?
her. Yeah, no, they flew me out, and I got to stay in this really expensive hotel room, and I didn't even write a review. I just tweeted about it right now. Like, what the hell's happening?
What? How am I missing out on the train of people with 10 followers getting early access? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just, well, we have reached our quota of chubby dudes with beards in their 30s. There's just, you know. But like, how do I get bumped on the list? I'll you know. I want to see these movies early. I don't even want to like.
You know what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm gonna do? Comic Historian. I'm gonna officially retire, and I'm gonna put in charge some TikTok tweeny girl that's 21 and looks good on camera.
Boom.
She is now Comic Historian, and I'm just the guy doing the voice, and that'll be
There
it.
you go. Yeah.
And she'll be at all the photos, and we'll get all the invites.
Yeah, except she'll the only one who can go.
Fine, whatever. Why do you gotta spoil my fun?
I don't know, man. It's weird. But yeah, no. So I mean, like, yeah, I'm with you. There's no way. I mean, like, yes, is she gonna stop being Black Widow? Yeah, her character's dead. It's a convenient time for her to say goodbye to the character. But I'm sure, you know, if they bring her back, or if they talk, if Feige is like, hey, we're thinking about bringing Black Widow back, she'd be like, yeah, okay, sounds great. I'll be back. Yeah, no problem.
My chat our chat is saying that would probably bump me in the algorithm. This is
Yes.
the new face of Comic Historian, and I will still be the voice. Hello, my name is.
Yeah, Nicole. And
Yeah, there you go. I was trying to think of something. Hello, my name is Nicole. This is the new.
yeah, I'm the new comic historian.
But yeah, I agree with you. Her saying goodbye is well timed. It's very convenient.
Yep.
Maybe it's to kill rumors, like the theory video we're coming out with very soon about variants.
Yes. Right? Like, no, I'm not in Loki. Oh, okay.
The VTuber version of me. That'll be it.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right,
Hot
next
tub
up we
historian.
got Shang-Chi trailer. All right. Damn it, we were supposed to do that yesterday.
Yes.
But anyway, we'll do it tomorrow. So Abomination blew up the internet because he's back.
Yeah, good. Finally.
I mean, it was cool, but I mean, I wasn't like too upset by him being gone or back or whatever.
No,
Like,
but he's one of the few villains they didn't kill in the phase 1. So
that's true.
and he kind of looks more like Abomination. Got his little fin ears. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. Yay, good. All right.
and it is confirmed it's Tim Roth again, right? He's just coming back.
I think so. There's no way it's not. Tim Roth doesn't cost much. Not now.
Okay, that's true.
So yeah.
All
good.
right, let's go into the hot. Well, you know what? These next. Well, we'll do the easy one. Coca-Cola is now a sponsor for Free Comic Book Day. How do you feel about that?
More money in Free Comic Book Day sounds like more comics for us. I'm all for it.
I mean, you drink Diet Coke.
I drink Coke Zero a lot.
Coke
so
Zero.
yeah.
It's the same thing. I did the research.
yeah.
You even got me drinking it. I now have cold, fresh Diet Coke over there because it's cheaper than Coke Zero, and no one sees me drinking the Diet Coke.
Nice. Well, I'll be availing myself of your services when I get there.
It's fresh now. Remember the last time you came over and it was like, is this the Diet Coke from last time I came out?
Yep. Yeah. It's like 2-year-old Diet Coke. I'm like,
Vintage.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the two hot topics.
Sure.
Boba Fett actor Mark Austin has got a social media to complain very loudly about LEGO renaming Boba Fett's ship and the upcoming LEGO set. Instead of calling it Slave 1, it is simply called Boba Fett's ship. Many
Yeah.
are stating that this is Disney caving to woke culture, and there is a large mix of fan responses for and against this change.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at this from a surface value and going through the actual article, it is exactly what it says. There doesn't appear to be anything else behind it, behind people getting upset by it.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of altering anything as old as 1980s.
Right.
Because we're altering, I mean, you could jokingly call it history now, but we're altering history at this point.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, well, it's Slave One, could be a little offensive to people, even though it's literally been around for 50 years.
Well, and like you know, it's a space world. What? Like, really? We're gonna start like, oh, that triggered me. Like,
outside of like
spaceship.
memeable TikToks, like what they did with the Cracker Barrel thing. Did you hear about the Cracker Barrel thing? Where they
No.
claimed that the Cracker Barrel was where they kept the whips for slaves, and
Ah.
it blew up, and Cracker Barrel's getting backlash. And as it turns out, Cracker Barrel is a literal barrel of crackers that was used like in the olden days, and it wasn't a whip, it was something else.
Right.
Other than like that kind of TikTok reaction where people are just making up their own assumptions, what everything
Yes.
means,
Yes.
I have never heard anyone go, Slave One, huh? Well, that's offensive.
I have seen that, but it was in a Robot Chicken sketch.
There you go. Like,
It was literally Lando going, "So Boba, nice ship. Not really thrilled about the name though." And I'm like, "That's funny, but it's not like a reason to cancel Boba Fett." You know, we still call in programming. We still call them slave drives.
yeah.
Like, it's I don't know. I'm not. No one in my lineage has ever been a slave, so I can't speak to that. But I feel like in the realm of science fiction, with a character who had like 2 lines ever in their spaceship, you know, who cares? Like, really, there's plenty of other things you can get really upset about.
Yes, and like even in the Star Wars movies, we could probably find some things, and that's the moment I'm getting at. Who cares, and who's making a big stink about it being called Slave One?
Right.
Like,
Nobody.
Who cares? And also, the fact is this: Star Wars fans aren't going to just they renamed it on a Lego toy. That's it's Boba Fett's ship now.
Yeah.
No one's going to say that. Never mind the
Nope.
fact there's so much media that says Slave One on it. Like,
You know what they never say in any of the movies? The name of the ship. Like, they never do.
Deviled Ham says it best. Dear white people, canceling the word slave doesn't count as progress. No, you know what? We're just going to get rid of the word, and that never happened.
Yeah. Well, now we don't have to worry about it. Another victory for us. Like, no. That's, I don't know. I think it's super dumb. I think
it's just dumb in general, and I agree with you on that. I don't see the
dumb.
reason for this. I have not seen backlash against it. I've not seen, and apparently everyone's keeping quiet about why they did it.
Yeah, because they probably did. Like, I would not be surprised in the least if there was an internal discussion of the marketing team going, "Oh, Slave One, huh? That sounds kind of problematic. I mean, we're Disney. We're always scrutinized for our decisions. We constantly make like these kind of decisions. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Well, it's a Lego set. You know, we'll just call it Boba Fett ship and just move. Can we do that?" It's like, sometimes you just need to go, you know what? No one who is going to buy this Lego set is going to stop buying it because they're outraged by the name. Like, we're selling this to nerds who know it's called Slave One.
Yeah.
And if people want to get upset about it, they're welcome to. But, like, we're not going to change it. And just literally go, it's called Slave One, and put it out under that name. And if people go like, "Oh, Slave One," you know, TikTokers or political pundits or anybody going like, Slave One, isn't it about it's 2021? It's like, just let them tire themselves out. Like,
They will, because they'll find something else to be offended by in a month.
like tomorrow. So
yeah.
You know, and
I love this tweet. Someone put out a tweet. They're like, if they think Slave One's offensive, just wait until they hear about who the Imperial Army's based on.
right. Yeah. I love. Yeah. It's just being overly cautious for no good reason and making more of a problem for people. I like people who think that this is like the new Coke scandal. Well, you see, Coke sales were down, so they created a bad soda called New Coke, so that when they brought back Coke Classic, it would make more money because people were nostalgic for the old. Like, no. They made a bad soda. They lost money. They brought back the old soda because people bought more of that soda than the other soda. In this case, they were overly cautious. They're like, it's 2021. everything's scrutinized to getting canceled. Do we call the thing Slave One or not? Can we get away with calling it Boba Fett's ship? Let's see if we can. And people still got upset, and now we're here. And it's
That's
like,
true. They didn't even win because now we're here. Everyone's upset that they're changing the name of it.
yeah, people are upset that they're changing it. People are upset that that's all they're doing. If they really wanted to make progress, they should take all the sales from the Lego set and give it towards reparation. Like no, they're a toy company, and it's licensed from a movie. Just call it the thing from the movie. End of story. Like, move. You know what I mean? Like, just let it go and just don't even stand by it. You know, like, DC has the right idea whenever they go, like, whenever we do anything, we just don't respond. Like, we make decisions and then we just leave the room.
Yeah. That's what they do.
Here you go. And then we just leave. Lego should just be like, it's called, like, here's the new Lego set. It's called Slave What? Slam. Conversation's over. Like, well, I'm gonna go to Twitter and complain about this. Knock yourself out. You and your echo chamber will be very happy. And then the Lego set will still sell the same amount of Lego sets that it was gonna sell before all this happened, or that it would have sold 20 years ago, and nothing will have changed. Congratulations, you've given yourself an aneurysm over nothing. And I don't want to defend a company.
Making me, actually, I will say this this isn't even a joke.
Yeah.
This discussion has made me consider buying the new one because I just want to build the Slave One.
Yeah.
Not even like, oh, I'm gonna do it in spite of. I just you're doing your rant, and in my head I'm like, it'd be kind of fun to build the Lego set. Like,
yeah, it's a dope looking ship. It would look really cool as a Lego set. Of course I would want to buy it.
That's what it's making me do though. Like, you're talking about like, oh, and I'm just like, oh, let's sell rant. That's
right,
cool.
Thank you.
I would enjoy building Boba Fett's ship. Like,
yeah. It's just stupid. So stupid.
So the next topic on hand is a DC artist shares the original Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy kiss.
Yeah.
What is apparently altered. Now, what I can't find is exactly how it was altered.
Take a look at the tweet because you'll see the colored piece is the altered version. And
where the faces are next to each other?
Where she's like, where it looks like Harley, or it looks like Ivy is kissing Harley, but missing and hitting her cheek instead.
So it's interesting because DC tweeted out queer coding, I guess the verb, imbuing a fictional work with queer themes or characters without ever explicitly acknowledging the queerness.
Yes. I've never heard that before in my life.
I've never heard that either at all. Unpack some history with queer coding in comics while it's important to move past it. So DC tweeted out the canonical first kiss by Harley and Poison Ivy.
Yeah.
The artist followed up with the unedited version, which is a full, like, lips touching, full, like, what you would consider a real kiss. Oh, and Ivy's grabbing Harley's ass. Is that in the other one too? Nope, that's in there too. Okay. It's a lot easier to see in the pencils.
Yes, absolutely.
Because Harley's like pretty much all white because there's no shading.
Right.
So it's easier to see there.
Definitely. That's funny.
I honestly didn't know because this is from 3 years ago. This isn't even like if this happened in the late 90s, early 2000s, I would have been like, oh yeah, I mean they were trying to hide gay characters. They didn't want them to be all the way out.
Yeah.
I didn't know that they were still doing this in 2017 this subvertly.
That doesn't surprise me in the least, but yeah.
Does it? No.
I mean, yeah. Especially because
they gave them the kiss. I remember that. I remember the kiss blowing up the internet. So its point got across. They had a kiss.
Yes, but it was more of a real kiss than the one we saw 4 years ago. I remember, this reminds me very much, it's a very esoteric reference, but I'm still going to make it because that's who I am. Gen 13 was a comic book that was more or less exploitative in nature, and it was like basically just X-Men with less fighting and fewer dudes. But like there was a character on that team called Rainmaker, and she was bisexual. And when I say bisexual, I mean she was gay, and they called her bisexual. And there was always like this will they won't they romance with her and the fire guy on the team. And at one point, because J. Scott Campbell has to draw it, the team gets stuck on an island of sexy warrior ladies who like have sex with all of them. And there's a scene where Rainmaker kisses another warrior saying goodbye, and the art is her kissing her forehead. And then, I know, I'm sorry, I'll get to the point in a minute.
Oh no! You're perfectly fine. I slept like ass, so I'm chugging down caffeine. I'm sorry.
They released this thing called the Gen 13 zine, which was like a little undersized book that had like sketches and original art and stuff like that in it. And in it, they were like, and here's the real panel that they said we couldn't use. And it's just Rainmaker kissing this Coda warrior on, like, full on, like a big gay kiss. And it's like, that would have been pretty cool and groundbreaking of them to have done in this book that had pre-order sales of like 2 million.
Yeah.
And it was an image book. Who told you couldn't do that? But nevertheless, 1994, they were changing the art and hiding the gay from comic books, from mainstream comic books. The fact that like 25 years later that they're still doing it in like a very similar fashion doesn't surprise me in the least, especially DC.
See, I didn't know that, because I thought, like, and for the record, I do apologize for the yawn. I had one of those nights where
it's okay.
I laid in bed for like 4 hours, my mind racing, and like 4 hours in, I'm like, I should be asleep. What am I doing?
I've been there. Yeah, that's my life.
See, and this is from somebody who has not been in a gay relationship, has not dealt with this on a front-facing kind of manner.
Right.
But I assumed we moved past this whole, like, we got to hide the gay mentality like 10 years ago. Obviously not. We just did it. I'm not going to... and obviously I wasn't tracking this. It's not like I looked up every day to be like, how gay is the world getting today? That's not how I was looking at things.
Yeah. How much progress have we made today?
Things like, I guess, like hide the gay, racism, and all this stuff have never made sense to me on a logical standpoint.
Yeah.
And I get like the racism and homophobia and all these things it's like an anti-logical mindset.
Yeah.
It is. Like, it's because, like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you want to have sex with or what the color of your skin is. That's what has always blown my mind, that people would have problems with these things.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I think that's why, for me, in my mind, when I started to kind of like see more of the world and not look at things from, more, because when you're growing up, you have your parents in your world. And I grew up in a very Christian household. Mm-hmm. So while we weren't racist or homophobic, I was never,
plugged in. You didn't like really know about that world. I was never plugged into that whole
world. So when I was in the world, I just assumed, oh, okay, cool, whatever. So it's just kind of fascinating to me that 4 years ago we were still dealing with this.
Yeah.
Hide it. Like, we can't overly have them kiss. Have her kiss the cheek. They'll understand.
Yeah, they'll get it. That'll be enough. Yeah. Like, yeah, well, because it's always worse to be disingenuous and to like hide it and lie, and it always comes out anyway. And I know that there's an old Hollywood expression called "friend of Dorothy," which was their way of saying, which was Hollywood's way of saying gay, and it's because and originally it was because like, obviously, the woodsman, the scarecrow, and the lion were very effeminate men, and it's like, oh, it's because she's hanging out with gay people, and it's like, no, because Judy Garland was actually a lesbian, and she was like, she was in a terrible place, and she was like horribly closeted and had a rough life. But like, friend of Dorothy was their way of being like, we all know what's going on, but we have to use subversive language to hide the conversation that we're all actually having out loud. And it's like, why don't you just be honest? Like, why don't you just be forthcoming? If it's going to be in the book, just put it in the book.
Well, and here's my question with the Harley Quinn and the Poison Ivy case. Your forehead to the mouth, okay, 20-something years ago, 25.
Yeah.
Fine, and forehead to the mouth is a little bit, like, moves it. But going from the full-on kiss to the cheek, that doesn't change anything.
Well, it does, because
especially since the internet blew up and was like, it's the first kiss!
Well, yeah, but also there was like an undercurrent of like Harley and Ivy, and they're bisexual, and we've been hiding it, and like we've been implying it, and we've never really gotten any acknowledgement of it, and we're in a different place where like people are expecting representation in their media. 20 years ago, it's like, it might have been considered, or 25 years ago, it might have been considered like exploitative and maybe like less progressive and more like gross. And I don't mean like gross because it's gay, but more like gross because like, are you doing this to titillate or to like help change the world? And with respect to the Harley and Ivy kiss, it's like, well, well, I mean, yeah, they're kissing, but like, we don't want it to get too gay. Like that's because that's clearly what happened. They were like, well, maybe it looks like she misses or she kisses her like kind of right there. Like you're arguing percentages, and it doesn't matter. Like you said, like the internet was like they're gay, they're kissing, yay, and it's like, oh, well, I guess we could have just left the art the way it was,
right,
without having to be.
Which, if you look
like
at the
pansies
two of them,
about it,
looking at them side by side, the actual thing looks really good, like but like they're kissing. But if you look at the one that they edited in with the lips, it looks awkward.
Yeah, it's terrible
like,
because they didn't ask the artist.
Yeah, you can clearly see. Looking at them side by side, now you can see why it looks weird.
Yes. Yeah, and why people immediately assumed that the one that they got was the same intent as the original art, because they didn't know that there was a context in there. They didn't know about this.
I do want to say, good on DC for commenting what they did there.
Right.
Because they're the ones that tweeted what
I can't
was going
believe
on.
they like highlighted it. There's a whole article about it on their own website where they're like, we did this.
Yeah,
but
that's what I mean.
But the article's not about how they changed the art to make it slightly less gay in their, hey, we're gay friendly post. Like, why would you paint a target on your back like that? Like, why would you open yourself up to criticism? What they should have been like was, we all make mistakes. We edited this person's art and it was totally not cool. Here's the original art, and we're in a better place now. I don't know. It just seems like a really stupid decision on their part to announce it only to open themselves up to the artist going, here's what it used to look like. That's amazingly like short-sighted of them. It's so weird. And anyway,
I mean, good on them for at least presenting, hey, this happens.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but
because they even said, like, wasn't their original tweet like, move past it now? Like, here's what we did. This is how it worked. Let's move past it. Like, I don't think you're gonna move past it, guys. Like, you just literally put a huge target on your back. Like,
yeah.
Because you're basically stating 4 years ago you were, in the words of you, Sal, hiding the gay.
Right. Sweep it under the rug. Don't make it. I mean, like, we know, like, but like, or we could say, oh yeah, no, Constantine is bi. Just don't show them kissing.
Yeah. Just imply. Do the jokey like, oh, hey, devil, we had a great time last night, right? Yeah, Constantine. And you could look at it as they drank too much or they drank way too much.
Right. Yeah. It's ugh. It's just, just
anyway, guys.
Yeah.
That's today's episode of Absolute Comics. We had a lot of meaty topics today.
I think so, yeah.
Which is funny because, like, looking at that list, I'm like, we got nothing. This is going to be a fast
Yeah, this will be quick. Yeah. No.
Hope you guys enjoyed Absolute Comics. Don't forget, if you want to support us, go check out G Fuel and use code COMICS at checkout to get your 10% off your order. You can also find us by supporting us on Patreon, patreon.com/comicstorian or patreon.com/comicpop. You get early access to the content over there, and you can support the show and keep it going. And you can also subscribe right here on Twitch at twitch.tv/comicstorian, where the show airs every Friday at about 5 p.m. Eastern. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time right here at the Absolute Comics channel.